All right, Paul. So, first up, we have news that an AI startup called Cognition is making waves with a demo of its new product called Devin that it labels as, quote, the first AI software engineer. So, the demo video that has been released by the company showing Devin in action shows a user typing in a prompt, giving Devin a task to complete using code, and then Devin develops a plan to tackle the problem. It, quote, builds the whole project using all the tools a human software engineer would use, according to Cognition CEO Scott Wu. And then from there, Devin uses its own command line, code editor, and browser to go and complete coding projects on its own using the same type of reasoning and problem solving that a human engineer would. So the result is that in the demo video, Devin's able to execute a complex project using code and even build a website that visualizes the results of that project. Now, Cognition as a company kind of feels like it came almost out of nowhere. It didn't even formally exist as a corporation until a couple of months ago. It has 21 million in funding from notable investors that include Founders Fund. And this demo itself is kind of blowing up the AI corners of the internet. Like tech leaders, like the CEOs of Stripe and Perplexity, have weighed in with pretty positive feedback. Ethan Malik, the leading AI voice who we talk about all the time, got early access to Devin and said that while it is slow and breaks often, it does make a plan and execute it autonomously, doing research, writing code, and debugging without you watching. Another notable builder in the AI education space named McKay Wrigley showed off a much more extensive 27-minute live demo of him using the tool. And he said the capabilities blew him away. His conclusion, quote, the era of AI agents has begun. Now, on that point, Paul, during episode 87, you literally talked about an AI agent explosion that you pegged in about the 2025 to 2027 range of happening. Has that come early, do you think?
Yeah, the timing was just hilarious. I mean, that with the podcast dropped Tuesday morning, and this was like around 9 a.m. Tuesday, this started kind of taking off. So, no, I mean, this is exactly what I was projecting when I was in, kind of said what I said last week. And basically, I think we're just going to see these increasingly impressive demonstrations. The 27-minute experimentation from McKay that you mentioned was impressive. I watched the whole thing, kind of was like trying to analyze what was actually going on. But like I said last week, I think what we're going to see is a bunch of like GPT-1, GPT-2 kind of agents. So these things that are really impressive, but not like what we're experiencing from a GPT-4 kind of experience. So it's still gonna, as Ethan Malik highlighted, it's still gonna break. It's still gonna do things wrong a bunch of times. It's gonna need you to interject, kind of. So lots of human oversight. And it's going to have errors. It's going to have all these issues. So while it's super impressive, it does not mean life is changing next week because of this demo. So as you mentioned, like a lot of times, what we do when something like this occurs is like go check your network and like what are the people who you trust in this space saying. And you and I, Mike, aren't programmers, so like we're not able to like truly analyze this thing and go use it ourselves and kind of figure out what's going on from a coding perspective. So you do have to sort of rely on what other people who understand the technology better than us are saying. And so you had mentioned Patrick Collison is the CEO of Stripe. He tweeted, "These aren't just cherry picked demos. Devin is, in my experience, very impressive in practice." We had the co-founder of Coinbase, Fred Ezram. He said, "First time I've seen an AI take a complex task, break it into steps, complete it, and show a human every step along the way, to the point where it can fully take a task off a human's plate, all built in just a few months." Aravind Sarinovis, I think is how we say his name, CEO of Perplexity. He said, "This is the first demo of any agent, leave alone coding, that seems to cross the threshold of what is human level and works reliably. It also tells us what is possible by combining LLMs and tree search algorithms. You want systems that can try plans, look at results, replace, and iterate till success." And it just went on and all these like amazing feedback. And honestly, like, if you just went and looked at the buzz online, you would think ChatGPT moment had happened in agents. Like, there was no hedging by any of these people. It was just like, this is insane. Um, my take though is much more along what Ethan Mollick had highlighted is like, hey, this is great, but it's slow. It breaks a bunch. You can't like remove the human from the loop. If you don't know code, you have no idea if it's doing things correctly or not. And so, I think my thoughts on this is when you look at advancements like this, to determine when a task or a job is going to be transformed by AI, you have to consider variables such as, well, how reliable is it? What is the risk of it being wrong? How repetitive and predictive is the task that it's taking on? How much human oversight is needed? How complex is the task? Does it need reasoning capabilities, mathematics, common sense, intuition? And so, like I was thinking a lot about this one throughout the week, and the example that came to mind is you'll often see these demonstrations where they're trying to show agents like booking a flight. And I think what you're going to see this year, what you're going to see with Devin, is these really impressive experiments where it's able to go book a flight. But then when you step back and you say, like, okay, I'm going to North Carolina, I need a flight, I need a hotel, and it's able to like go do these things. But what the agent doesn't know, it doesn't know the nuances of individual person's preference. Like a deeper understanding of how flight works. Which airports would I rather transfer through based on which clubs I have access to? So, if I have an Amex Platinum card, I have access to their clubs. And it's like it's not going to know all these things. So it's not like we're just going to have these agents that we just turn on and things are just done for us. There's going to be a long period of time where we are observers, trainers, mentors, and managers of these agents. And this is going to be extremely true in business and marketing and sales and service. We're not going to just all of a sudden have agents like Devin flip a switch and this thing just watches us do our job once and learns everything from there. So I think what's going to happen, as we talked about last week, is jobs are just going to start evolving over the next few years where the agents are going to be a part of what we do, but your domain experience and expertise, your intuition and common sense, those things are going to be needed to make these agents economically viable. And so I think throughout the year, we're going to see really impressive demonstrations from Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Adept, Hyperwrite, Multion. Like they're all working on these exact same things. And what we know about this space is people follow fast. Like you're going to see demonstrations of this. Heck, we might see stuff this week from NVIDIA with their GTC conference. Like we just don't know. So my overall take here is I think what we're going to see is agents that are built for specific tasks because the less general they are, the more they're trained to book flights or send your emails or manage your social media, the more focused they are, the quicker you can reduce errors, the less human oversight will be needed. It becomes more reliable and it can maximize its impact, like we talked about last week with Klarna. So I think you're going to have agents that are trained in specific domains that are capable of reasoning and planning, have the ability to search like from a database to verify processes and data and decisions, and then they're connected to applications and tools and really perform these actions. But I don't think we're going to see these massive general agents like GPT-4, from a language model perspective, that just does everything out of the box. But I think you're going to see smaller agents that are faster and cheaper, like a social media manager AI, an email manager AI, an ad buyer AI. And I could actually start to see, and I think Ethan Mollick referred to this, is like these things almost become a part of your org chart
Mm.
where I don't know if you personify them with names, but I do think we're just going to look at the org chart in the future and start thinking, okay, well, the AI plugs in here and it's going to do the job of 4 people doing this, but it's going to need a trainer or a mentor or someone who's actually overseeing it and training it and constantly evolving it and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, long story short, really, really impressive. Like, go watch the demos. It's crazy, but don't think that, I think what was the metric I gave last week? Your life noticeably changes as a result of like an
Yeah.
advancement. I don't think anyone's work or life is going to noticeably change because of this demonstration, but this is exactly the kind of stuff we're going to start seeing more and more of this year.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, it reminds me time and time again of something we often say here and talk about often offline. The reason our mission is AI literacy for all is because we have to arm everyone with the knowledge of what this stuff is starting to be able to do. So you can go figure out in your own career, what does AI agents mean for your particular business or function? So I love that idea of potentially having one of these things as your coworker.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, so much of what we try and do is like cut through the noise and the hype and say, is this real yet? And like I said, like, I mean, if you just looked at on Tuesday, all the people that were like retweeting this video, like the demo video from them, and then once people started getting their hands on it and showing like actual real world stuff, if you don't know what you're looking at, like you really could think we just had the chat GPT moment of agents and like life just changed. And so that is, from everything we can determine and everything we can look at, that is not what happened. And in reality, it's probably not even a massive technical breakthrough that the other AI labs don't already have the ability to do. It just had its moment, and the demo was awesome. And I think it's going to just keep making this part of the conversation moving forward. People are realizing like this stuff is becoming very real, and it will start having an impact. But I still feel like 2025 is a more realistic time where it starts to, maybe you and I are looking at a social media AI to infuse into the institute.